Hello, it's Mr. Ripka, and I'm reading Neruda during Corona. We're going to have a little special episode today. It's going to be a Memorial Day 2-for-1. So we're going to do 2 poems during one day because I was really busy this weekend painting a house and doing other things, and so I did not get a chance to do poem 60, which is a hallmark place to be in our endeavor here. And so we're going to do poem 60 and 61, a total of 7 questions for you to think about this Memorial Day. All right, so we're doing poem 60 and poem 61. Thanks for joining me again. Here we go. Poem 60, LX. ¿Y qué importancia tengo yo en el tribunal del olvido? ¿Cuál es la representación del resultado venidero? ¿Es la semilla cereal con su multitud amarilla? ¿O es el corazón huesudo, el delegado del durazno? One thing I'm sure you heard was the color amarilla, yellow. Yeah, he loves to bring up the colors. If you remember right, if we go back, we've hit poem 60, why not go back to poem 1? His second question of this entire work 60 days ago was, which yellow bird fills its nest with lemons? And here we have in poem 60 more yellow. Let's go ahead and see what he's talking about here in English for this poem 60. Question 1 is and what importance do I have in the courtroom of oblivion? The courtroom of oblivion. What a curious combination of words. El tribunal del olvido. The tribunal of the oblivion. Interesting. I wonder if that's a related kind of question to the ones that came before when he asked in poem 59, why was I not born mysterious? Why did I grow up without companions? And then he says, and which flag unfurled there where they didn't forget me? And now he's asking about what importance do I have in the courtroom of oblivion? I hope you can play around with that a little bit and maybe ask yourself, what is the courtroom of oblivion? All right, so number 2, which is the true picture of how the future will turn out? Wow, he hasn't given us a picture yet. He's just saying which is the true picture. Maybe it's the next 2 questions. Let's see. The next question is it the grain seed among its yellow masses? Is it the grain seed among its yellow masses? Is this the true picture of how the future will turn out? The next question, last one for poem LX, is, or is it the bony heart? Corazón huesudo. The bony heart, that delegate of the peach. Wow, there is a lot to unpack here, a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and go through it one time, let you feel the rhythm a little bit, and then feel free to unpack all of these interesting, abstract kind of images of the courtroom of the oblivion, the true picture of how the future will turn out, grains and seeds and yellow masses. Yellow masses of what? Bony hearts, delegates of peaches. Curious, curious, curious. So one last time, going through it all. And what importance do I have in the courtroom of oblivion? Which is the true picture of how the future will turn out? Is it the grain seed among its yellow masses? Or is it the bony heart, that delegate of the peach? So that's poem LX, poem 60, the 4 interesting questions. I'll leave that to you to kind of pluck out those images and the ideas and see once again what's going on in poem 60. But let's move on. Maybe poem LX 61 will help us understand poem LX 60. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the next one in this 2-for-1 special on Memorial Day. Poem 61. La gota viva del azogue corre hacia abajo o hacia siempre. Mi poesía desdichada mirará con los ojos míos. Tendré mi olor y mis dolores cuando yo duerma destruido. Once again, he's coming up, plucking some images of his previous 60 poems, right? He has this, he's talking about his poetry. He's done that before. He's talked about his eyes before. He's also, of course, talked about duermas, going to sleep, because he likes to combine that sleeping world with the living, waking world into this one great sort of comprehensive world, a world that tries to, at least to comprehend, a life that tries to comprehend both the waking and the sleeping. So a lot of words here that he seems to be kind of pulling, but let's go ahead and run through the 3 questions from poem 61. Does the living drop of mercury run downward or forever? Curious. Does the living drop of mercury, okay, I see that, the mercury, it's in like a thermometer or something like that. And then it says, does it run downward? And it doesn't say, does it run downward forever? It just says, does it run downward or forever? Maybe it's, does it run downward or does it run forever? That's an interesting question. Does the drop of mercury run forever or does it run downward? His next question is, will my sorrowful poetry watch with my own eyes? Maybe his poetry is kind of sorrowful and melancholy in a way. I find it to be joyful and fun and childlike, but there is a tinge, isn't there, of the melancholy in these poems, especially when he brings up things like sorrowful and oblivion and bony hearts. These are interesting, somewhat, at least the sorrowful and the oblivion, sort of melancholic imagery. But I find his sorrowful poetry, as he calls it, to be quite joyful and pleasurable. And with that, let's read one last question. Poem LXI. Will I have my smell and my pain? When destroyed, I go on sleeping. We must remember, yes, we're getting close to the end of this book, Pablo Neruda, El Libro de las Preguntas, the book of questions. We're getting toward the end. And maybe we want to remember as we're getting toward the end that he also is toward the end of his life. So these last few questions are it's almost like he's starting to wonder about his life. How will he be remembered? The courtroom of oblivion. How will the future turn out? And this mercury, does it go on forever? And then later on, maybe, because it's the future, and in the future, my sorrowful poetry, watch with my own eyes? Almost like, I wonder if he's asking if he's still alive in the poetry. Right? And then the last one, of course, was sleeping, being destroyed for an eternal sleep. What will happen? Interesting. Well, let's go through these last questions one more time. It says, does the living drop of mercury run downward or forever? Will my sorrowful poetry watch with my own eyes? And will I have my smell and my pain? When destroyed, I go on sleeping. Well, that's a good poem, actually, and a good question for us to contemplate on this Memorial Day. As we are memorializing the soldiers who have passed away so that we, of course, can have freedoms. And so, with that, I'd just like to thank you once again for joining me. And I hope you have some interesting questions to think about today if you would like to. And feel free to make some comments about what you think these mean or anything like that. That'd be wonderful to hear. And I will see you tomorrow for Poem 62. So thanks again for joining me. And you have a wonderful Memorial Day.